Direct from Fort Meade, Maryland, this is DINFOS Live.
Hello, and welcome to another exciting episode of DINFOS Live. I'm your host, Lieutenant Commander Kate Sheeran, a Defense Information School instructor. On this month's episode, we'll be speaking to instructors from the Intermediate Photojournalism Course to talk to us about next-level photojournalism techniques you can use to step up your storytelling capabilities. So let's welcome them to the program. U.S. Air Force Tech Sergeant Christine Greening.
Ma'am.
Hi.
Nice to
Welcome
see
to
you.
the program.
Thank you.
And Mr. Thomas Lamb.
Hi.
Welcome
Nice
to
see
the
you.
program. All right, guys, welcome. Great to have you here.
Good to be here.
And again, if you're out there watching our show and have any questions for our guests, don't hesitate to leave them in the comments below, and we might just read them on the air. Okay, let's get started with the show. Before we start, could you please introduce yourselves?
So I'm Tech Sergeant Christine Greening. I've been in the Air Force for about 12 years and an instructor at DINFOS for about a year.
Awesome. Great to have you on the show. Mr. Lamb.
And I'm Tom Lamb. I've been in the Army Guard for about 9 years, and I've been an instructor at DINFOS for about 6 months as a civilian.
Awesome. Great to have you on the show.
Thank you.
So to get started, what is human-centered design?
So human-centered design is a way that we can organize our stories to put people first. When we focus on a person instead of the what or the when of a particular news peg, the story, we can focus on their emotions and help our audience connect to our story by putting that person in the center. It allows us to kind of divide our stories into two different sections. We have human interest and personality.
Got it. Can you give me an example of human-centered design that you've seen recently or in pop culture?
Sure. Over Memorial Day weekend, you might have seen a lot of articles about events going on in your community.
Mm-hmm. Certainly,
right? And the why of it all is it's Memorial Day weekend, we're honoring fallen warriors. But we can come in and focus on one person's particular experience with fallen warriors and how Memorial Day affects them while still acknowledging that the event is happening in your community. It allows you to put a person at the center of the event and kind of capture a broader concept,
Mm-hmm.
I guess.
That makes sense, and I feel like I just saw that last weekend, so thank you for making the connection for me. Next question is, what is the difference between human interest and personality?
So we'll go into human interest really quick. It's really just what kind of topic are people interested in? What brings people together? So some sort of like examples could be occupation, hobbies, and then some key words to keep in mind are like the we, us, they, them. So we do have an example we would like to share from our last class. It's more about sheep and wool making. Yeah, so we'll just pop it up and take a look.
Sounds great. Let's check it out.
A sheep, probably to call someone a sheep would be a derogatory term. But unlike a goat, which all a goat wants to do is jump on the hood of your car, or eat your flower bed. But the sheep is a more docile animal, I think, and they lend themselves to a much simpler way of handling.
Lie down. Wait a minute. Wait. Wrong way.
Wool is an amazing product because it's totally renewable. Those sheep are going to grow it every year for you. And once it's been processed, it has strength, it has warmth, it has, and depending on the breed of sheep, it has softness. Wool is a fiber that can be very versatile, and depending on how soft or how coarse it is, it can be used for apparel that's worn next to the skin. It can be used for carpets. It can be used for mattresses. And there's even some companies that are using wool for mulch. The problem right now is that wool is being overlooked, and the price of wool has just tanked, and it usually costs a farmer more money to shear a sheep than what he's going to get for the wool. Because people aren't using wool as much. They're using artificial fibers. Obviously, we've talked about the wool, but sheep are a very multi-purpose self-sufficiency animal.
Someone said to me a long time ago that a sheep is a survival kit, and that really resonates with me. It means the sheep provides clothing for me, it feeds me meat, milk, cheese, and the sheep enriches the soil. It does not take away, but it enriches the land, unlike a cow who is much more hard on the land. To me, to be a good shepherd, of course you got to pay the bills and feed them hay and grain, but you've got to have a watchful eye. You need to look and make sure. I count them, like I said, I count them every day. And do I have all the lambs? And is everybody coming forward? Is everybody feeling okay? You just, you know, it's just part of what you do. You're looking after your flock. You do think about the destiny of your animals, and you try to give them the best life you can. And I certainly have had to learn to make important decisions. You know, I don't know, I see those sheep every day, and yes, indeed, some of the sheep go for meat, but they go to pay the bills for the rest of the flock. I mean, I always used to tell my students, if you don't have a parrot or a turtle, you're going to have to make a life decision for your animal, because you are going to, luckily, hopefully outlive it, and you must consider their destiny from, you know, it should be in your mind, and how that's going to play out in the kind of life that you provide for them.
Well, that certainly was well worth it. Anything you want to point out from the video?
So I forgot to mention that Senior Airman Hastings produced this video. He spent such a long time with these subjects, and it really shows. Getting to know the two individuals and their, you know, how they put wool together, how they do, how they impact the community. So yeah, he did a really great job, and that's just one of the different stories we kind of produce in at the IPC.
The other story we kind of focus on is the personality feature. And this is more a story about an individual and their worldview instead of their relationship to something outside of them. So we have another example we'd like to show called The Reptile Man by Staff Sergeant Avalone. And if we could roll that, we can take a look.
Awesome, let's check it out.
Within the top 10 fears people have, well, one of them is public speaking. The other is the fear of snakes. And somehow I ended up combining both of those. I started doing my talks in the early 1970s when it was largely just fear. The audiences were just very apprehensive.
I hate snakes, Chuck! I hate them! Come on, show a little backbone, will ya?
But now the reception that I get everywhere I go is truly amazing. I mean, kids today seem to know more about the natural world than any other generation. When I'm giving my talks and kids are ending my sentences, seeing the kids so engaged, seeing them so interested, gives me great hope. I don't want kids to finish seeing a program and then wanting to go out and catch snakes. It's a deeper appreciation for them, and the simple idea that most kinds of snakes, depending on where you live, are very harmless. I mean, I love my reptiles, but they don't love me. And I always miss them, but they never miss me. And I'm always glad to see them, but they're indifferent to seeing me. What I get from them is the interest I have in them, in their beauty, in their patterns, their designs, their textures. But certainly many people have a fear of snakes, and I think it's largely because they've never had an opportunity to really learn about them. And most of the time, I think when we find a snake, we're not looking for one. You know, I don't know where you draw the line between fear and respect. When people don't want to enjoy the outdoors because of their fear of snakes, yeah, I think a deep, deep fear of anything is unfortunate, you know. If we can see reptiles in a different light, in a better light, there's a greater hope for people.
So that story shows his views on fear and love and hope and his life working with reptiles. It very easily could have been a story about reptiles as a whole, right? And the art of like hosting reptile shows or giving educational talks, but instead Staff Sergeant Avalone focused on his personality and how he interacts with the world around him. And that kind of changes between a human interest and a personality based on how you approach your subjects.
Makes sense.
Yep.
And I'm so impressed that your students created those videos. Those were really impressive.
Thank you.
My next question is, how do you approach your subject when you want to find that story? How do you go about that?
So we generally tell students, go to places where there are people. Go to places that you're interested in. What are some of your hobbies? And at that point, you've got some talking points in the back of your head of, you know, how can I approach this person? What can I talk to them about? And introduce yourself. Be forthright with them on what you're there for. Mm-hmm. Hey, I'm a student. I'm here to cover this assignment, or whatever the case. And just be honest with them. That makes them feel more comfortable, makes you more approachable. And then another aspect is if you're out on the street, how are you going to approach a subject that, like, what is something that is intriguing to you about one person? Is it the clothing that they're wearing? Is it a tattoo on them that, you know, looks interesting? Create some conversation that way, just to find your stories and your subjects. Got anything else? No? Okay.
Makes sense.
Yep.
Introduce yourself and make that connection and then go from there.
Yeah.
Awesome. So how do you prepare for a shoot? How do you instruct your students to prepare for a shoot?
There's a ton of planning that goes into producing a video or a photo story and writing, like we saw earlier, right? So the biggest thing is in your pre-planning, you have to know what story you're trying to tell, know what story your subject can tell, and know what you need to capture in order to show that story. We can organize all this through a form we call the beat sheet. Like
the beat sheet?
Yeah, a beat
okay.
sheet. We have different acts of a play, different chapters of a book will go over different topics, right? And different beats of the story can be captured even in these small pieces. And we use the beat sheet to organize those. It helps us find questions that we want to ask, visuals that we want to capture, and really hone in on the focus of our story and what our subject can offer.
Awesome. Sounds like the beat sheet is a great tool. So my follow-up question is, what if you don't use the beat sheet and you're not prepared for a shoot? What happens then?
So really you're just walking into not being prepared. You're wasting your subject's time, your own time. That beat sheet definitely helps hone in a focus. And so having that focus will save you that time. But yeah, not being prepared is detrimental to building relationships and saving you time.
The preparation can dramatically reduce the workload that you have to do too. Like if I go into a shoot without a focus, I might be shooting stuff that I don't need and won't use in the edit, wasting my time. Or I could, worse than having too much material is not having enough, right? Not shooting something that you need, or not asking a question you need a soundbite for to tie your story together because you weren't focused before you went out to the shoot, can really impact the quality of the product.
Makes sense. You got to do that research, that planning, and have the beat sheet. My next question is about shot variety. How do you create shot variety?
So research beforehand. Have an idea. I know for me, I look at divids first. I create a shot list, and we give our students an idea of what the shot list is. Find your close-ups, overalls, tight expressive faces. That shot list will help you produce visual variety, as well as change up your lenses. I know for me what works is I'll have 2 different camera bodies with 2 different lenses, and kind of shoot from there. Capture what I want off of my shot list first, and then kind of play at that point. Different angles, perspectives, definitely helps with your visual variety.
Yeah, and in addition to that, different compositional techniques, using the rule of thirds, or increasing or decreasing your depth of field. You can take one subject and make a lot of different images that have visual variety from that single subject, like we saw with the corn snake.
Yes, from the Reptile Man video.
Yeah.
So our next question is from social media. What type of cameras do DINFOS students use, and do you have any equipment recommendations?
So our students use Nikon Z6 IIs with some Z-mount and some F-mount adapted lenses. They also have access to a wide variety of action cameras from our student issue point, or additional lenses that might not be in their kit. We give them full access to a lot of microphones, gimbals, really whatever they think they might need in order to be successful in the shoot. They can probably get around DINFOS. It's a beggar's market, right?
Great place to learn, absolutely. Yeah. Do you have anything to add on that one?
I really like using my speed light. So I know a lot of people are into just natural light, like that's their go-to, but having that speed light, playing with it off camera, will really help with adding some dimension, or like a different outlook to your photos. So if you've got the equipment, you might as well use it, learn how to use it.
Yeah. There's
tutorials online, so yeah, do some research beforehand and play a lot.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Sounds like a plan. So our next question is also from social media. Kenneth Alston is asking, can you recommend any books to improve a photojournalist skill set? Do you have any book recommendations?
I recently picked up a book called Picturing People. It's all about portraiture and different types of portraiture and how to, build rapport with subjects, that I found very interesting. I more so use a lot of online resources than physical books or online books.
I know in the beginning of our course, like the first few days, we talk about Dave LaBelle. He has I think it's the Great Picture Hunt and the Great Picture Hunt 2. And he really talks about like building connections with your subjects, waiting for moments, looking for humor, or, different types of messaging. How can you tell a story within a photo? So I would definitely check out those books. They're pretty valuable, and yeah, we have our students take a look at them, and they found them to be useful.
Great. Yep. Thank you for the recommendations. My next question is about lighting. How important is lighting to your photos?
So important.
If you want to,
Lighting is one of the a picture is the process of capturing available light, or you can use additional light sources like flash or strobes in order to add light to a scene. The lighting situation that you decide to use for any particular picture can modify the mood and the intent of that shot. Having neutral lighting, it looks very commercial and clean, whereas having a single strobe or a single spotlight on a subject might provide a more moody, kind of dark vibe to a photo.
Certainly.
And you can use natural lighting as well, and using those modifiers that Mr. Lamb talked about. So thinking about when you're out on location, what can I use around me that will enhance my photo? So like walls, a white wall, you could bounce the light off of that wall with your flash. You could use a piece of paper to diffuse light. Like, get creative, and you can find like these resources or ideas on, like, say, Pinterest. I know I look up those ideas all the time on there, just for some ideas of how I can get creative with my lighting.
Certainly lots of inspiration out there.
Yep.
And I'd say we have pretty good lighting in the studio today, so
Yeah.
that's good. So my next question is about portraiture. Why is portraiture important in photojournalism?
We've been taking pictures and portraits of people since the inception of photography and painting them much, much longer than that, right? And a portrait, being specifically posed, is something that a lot of photojournalists might not be comfortable taking. But it provides a lot of benefits. When you have the control of the scene and control of your subject, you can elicit different emotions out of them based on how they're standing, posing. You can capture different parts of their environment that might not necessarily be next to each other in any given shot that you would take in uncontrolled action photography. So portraiture really helps you tie together a story and provide a closer view of your subject and get more into their head.
And we teach our students more about, like, environmental portraits. So what can we tell our viewer about this person based on what's around them? If we're talking about a painter, should we be putting them in a paint studio, or like a barista in the coffee shop? And they're intentionally posed as well. So even the use of props can be beneficial when telling a story about that person, achievements, things they're overcoming. So keeping those in mind when it comes to taking portraits.
That makes sense. And it reminds me of what you both said about how important it is to do your research and to create that interpersonal relationship in the beginning. So we have another social media question from Kenneth Alston. So what are the differences between shooting for a publication versus taking shots for social media?
When shooting for a publication, the biggest thing in my head is the dimensions of your photos. You're really constrained in your crop sizes, and you're really constrained in the number of images you can post, because every image takes up a certain amount of space on your page. In contrast, in social media, you can make your image whatever size you want. People can click and zoom in and really get into that image if they want to. You can edit more aggressively, I guess, on social media. Not that you're supposed to in military photojournalism, but as a whole, you can edit a little more aggressively and have the same picture in different, in grayscale and color, different lights in order to enhance the scene.
I don't know. I kind of feel like you can use capture a feature photo for both social media and a publication. What is the story you're trying to tell? What are you trying to pull the viewer in to want to learn about? So I kind of feel like they go hand in hand.
Awesome. We've got another social media question coming in. The question is, what programs do you use to edit your videos, and how do you teach your students how to edit?
We use Premiere Pro, And most of our students are coming in because our course is an intermediate photojournalism course. They have prior experience doing photo and video work. So the video editing software of choice is Premiere Pro for us. I personally use CapCut and Premiere Rush and DaVinci Resolve on the side.
Cool.
But I think Premiere Pro is the best one.
The go-to. Yeah.
Go-to.
Yep.
Got it. So going back to storytelling, how do you write better stories?
So we teach our students how to show versus tell. So show me the environment or the location that you're writing about. Think of the five senses. How can we implement that in our writing? What are we smelling in a restaurant? What are we hearing in a on the street? So kind of showing that for the reader. And then just think about books you've read. What about those books did you like, and how can you implement that sort of writing in your own writing? So we kind of give students a way to play during their time in IPC, and we provide coaching and that sort of thing. But yeah, it's time to play, have ideas. It's a great time to practice while going through the course.
Absolutely.
Descriptive writing is really important.
Yep.
What goes into a effective photojournalism interview?
So imagine you've already done your beat sheet, you've done your pre-production, and that's really the most important part of any photojournalism interview. Having a pre-interview before your actual interview allows you to zero in on your subject's personal story and what they're an expert and willing to talk about. So they're more prepared next time you come out, and y'all can work together.
And then being genuinely interested helps. I think people are more open to talking a little bit more, and having open-ended questions definitely helps as well, because at that point I think that helps them expand more on their thoughts instead of yes or no. Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah. Next question is, who inspires you?
I am personally inspired by Craig F. Walker. He's a Denver photographer and Pulitzer Prize winner. He did a series for his 2009 Pulitzer Prize called Ian Fisher, American Soldier, where he spent 27 months with a man, Ian Fisher, from graduating high school all the way through his first deployment in Iraq, through drug and alcohol troubles, through relationship issues, through firefights and deployment. Through that whole 27 months, his final gallery was 20 photos.
Wow.
So he spent all that time embedded with this unit and spending time in Ian's home. And that smaller section of photos really says that you can, not every time you go out and shoot, you're going to come out with a great shot. He took the time he needed to tell the story he wanted to tell.
And then for me, I love to just peruse the internet, Instagram, Pinterest.
Same here.
For ideas. So for me, I don't have one particular person in mind.
There's a lot of creative content out there.
Yes, there
certainly.
is.
All right, another social media question from Shane Bowler. Do you all prefer handheld video, or do you put your camera on a tripod and lock it off, allowing the action to move through the frame?
Really, when you use handheld video, you can follow the action, and that's awesome. But tripods are the better solution. You know, spend $1,000, get a good tripod, lock it off, and let everything happen before you. It's the difference between fishing and hunting. When you're doing photography, you're hunting. You're moving around and trying to get that moment. But if you're doing video, you have to let the action happen in front of you and predict where that action's going to be.
I like that fishing versus hunting analogy. That's good. Do you have anything to add?
No.
Okay. So this is our last social media question. Ryan R. asks if you have any recommendations for self-study materials or any practice assignments that they can find online.
So again, like I said, Pinterest is great, but there is the Pavilion website.
DINFOS Pavilion,
Yep.
yeah, great
So
tool.
check that out. It's got a lot of basics to start with. Yeah, it's just a great tool. There's a lot as far as PA, photo, and video to start from there and then kind of go from there.
I would also recommend using Pavilion, and more important than using Pavilion or online resources, going out and shooting.
Yes.
You can't learn photography without taking photos, so you can't learn photojournalism without doing it either.
Makes sense. And shout out to Pavilion.
Right.
So my final question for you guys is, what would you like to add? Is there anything you'd like to summarize about being an instructor in IPC, or refocus on any of the topics that we've talked about?
So if you're going to be attending IPC in the future, I would say have an idea of what you want to shoot beforehand. Even make contacts before you make it here if you know you're attending the class. It'll make things so much easier in terms of who you're going to be reaching out to. You can do some research before you even make it to class. It'll be less stressful for you once you've made it here. So that is paramount. And then, yeah, just be prepared. You're going to be talking to a lot of people. You're going to be getting out of your comfort zone. I know a lot of us are introverts, so yeah, be prepared for that. It'll be fun, but it'll be rewarding in the end. You'll learn a lot.
Awesome.
Yep.
I'd just like to add, find your inspiration where you can, and try to emulate that until you're able to create your own style.
Excellent. Thank you both.
Thank you.
Well, that concludes our show for this month. Remember, if you'd prefer to listen to our show rather than watch it, you can download it as a podcast by searching for DINFOS Live. I wanted to thank our guests for joining us today, and also to thank all of you for hanging out with us. Look for the links we discussed today in our show notes, and we'll see you all next month.